And Chris.
All right, Calvin, Gary, mute him.
My co-host?
You can't do that.
All right, we are live on Facebook, and we're going to begin by muting people. Oh, goodness. It's going to be a fun day today, y'all. I done brought my husband and son to work, and they are already over there cutting up. So we are live on Facebook. If any of our guests would like to share it, you can, but always watch from the Zoom because there's going to be a delay. And so if folks want to create a watch party or do anything like that, we highly encourage you to do so, but make certain that you're always focused on Zoom because that's where it's going to happen from. So, hey, welcome to another Thursday, 2 o'clock Real Talk with, I hate saying my own name like that. That just seems so arrogant. But that's what my kids named it, so that's what I'm going to go with. Welcome to Real Talk with Dr. Briggs. This is Gear Up, Alabama. We are excited to have so many guests. What are they doing? You all know we take this casual. It's going to be super casual today because my husband and my son are making it a challenge for me to work today. So they may have to get kicked off the Zoom before we're all done, but that happens sometimes. They're not sitting still. But this is Gear Up Alabama for those of you who might be first time to seeing what we do here. We are a federal grant awarded to the University of Alabama School of Education. We are in our final 7th year of the work that we've been doing. And we were interrupted by this little thing called COVID. And as a result of this novel pandemic that we found ourselves in, we started having these Instagram lives and then moved into Facebook Live to reach our students the best way we knew how, and that was to reach them where they were, and that's right here on social media. So we are doing now 3 different lives a week just to connect with the kids, and it started off talking about COVID and how they were feeling. Then we moved into work-life family balance. And then from there, we moved into plugging the kids into resources with colleges. We've had career pathway conversations. But while we were focused on this one pandemic, a whole nother one popped up. And so we had to shift gears again. And I'm lucky to have, 2 great partners. I don't do this work alone as a sociologist, but I have some licensed clinicians that assist me in the work. And so I have 2 of my Clark Atlanta brothers, Gary White, center stage there on my view, and then Dr. Christopher Bass. And so Dr. Bass is a clinical psychologist and Dr. White is a clinical social worker. And we've been doing this work together for a while now. And I'm excited for today's conversation. We thought it was important to have the talk. And because the concept is centered on family, we wanted to invite our own. So I'm going to start, I guess, with my own family. Let me just be polite and do that. Brother Briggs and Brother Briggs, tell us who you are. You have to come off mute, or I'll unmute you. There you
go. I'm Elijah Briggs. I'm a senior at Hoover High.
I'm Calvin Briggs.
Oh, where do I plan to go to college?
Mm-hmm.
Clark Atlanta University.
Oh. One exceptional university.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, my name is Calvin Briggs. I'm a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, class of 1994. I am a mathematics educator, an advocate for STEM education and workforce development. Currently, I'm working with Southern Center for Broadening Participation in STEM.
Thank you, Brother and Brother Briggs there. Appreciate it. Let's see. Where else should we go? Dr. Hill. Hi. So this is one of our other fearless partners in this work. We have Dr. Hill from College Admissions Made Possible. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Thomasine Hill. I work for College Admissions Made Possible. Our acronym is CAMP. So you may have heard us about CAMP. I am from Birmingham, Alabama, lived here all my life. Well, except for a few stints in Florida and Georgia. And I am the Senior Program Director. I work with GUA as a partner. And I went to the University of Montevallo and the University of Alabama, where I received my bachelor's and master's at the University of Montevallo and my doctorate at the University of Alabama.
Awesome, thank you. And so all the way up to my left, I have Gregory Jones. Will you introduce yourself and not only who you are today, but give us a little college background too?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Greg Jones. I'm from Northport, Alabama, and I graduated from the University of Montevallo. Was at Montevallo with Dr. Hill. Received a Bachelor of Science in Mass Communication in 1985. Also received a Master of Arts degree in Human Behavior from City University. And I've spent the last 21 years working for the FBI at FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. and I retired about 4 years ago this September and decided to move back home. So now we're in Northport, Alabama, enjoying the retirement life. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of this conversation today.
Awesome, thank you so much. Lieutenant Mackey, how you doing?
I'm awesome, and yourself?
Doing great. Tell us about yourself.
I am, like you said, I'm Lieutenant Mackey. I'm with the Montgomery Police Department. I am a happy graduate of the Alabama State University.
I knew what was coming after that, T.
I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and I am a humble police officer who love my job in spite of everything that's going on right now. And right now, also, I'm accompanied by another Nobles member, Sergeant Nichols. She's with the Community Policing Division here. She's a supervisor also. So she's going to be accompanying and helping me out in these endeavors.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Well, welcome to both of you. And let's see here. Elliot and Kai, another Clark Atlanta. So there's no bias here. It's just a coincidence that all these Clark Atlanta folks showed up on one screen together. But Elliot and Kai, who are you?
Can you hear me? I know we were having a sound difficulty. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you a little bit. It's still a little low, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I'll try to speak a little closer. But as Dr. Briggs mentioned, I'm a graduate of Clark Atlanta. I'm currently a member of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. So when I heard that this was through Gear Up, I was very excited because their mission aligns very closely with our own. So it's so your organization is near and dear to my heart.
Awesome.
My name is Kai. I was born in Buffalo, New York, but I moved to Atlanta when I was 4 years old, and I was in the movie The Hated Kid. The youngest.
So you guys are almost going all the way out in terms of volume now. Yeah. I don't know what we can do.
Right. Can I do a mic test right quick with a microphone?
Yeah. Not
here. Can you hear through this microphone? No.
We can hear you, but it's still low.
Still low. Now can you hear with the microphone?
It's getting better.
So should I just keep pushing buttons?
It's getting better.
I'm not sure what's going on. I'll look for a gain increase.
Now that's good. So while you keep doing that, I'm gonna have Dr. Bass and Dr. White introduce themselves.
I am Dr. Christopher Bass, a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University, the Clark Atlanta University. And Brother Mackey, I also hail from Washington, D.C., 6 and R Northwest. So my man, I am a psychologist and also a professor of psychology at Clark Atlanta University, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome.
And I'm the other Chris Bass. I attend Morehouse College where I major in applied physics.
Whoa.
Yes, ma'am.
Go on then, applied physics.
My name is Dr. Gary O. White. I am an assistant professor at Clark Atlanta University, the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work, where I'm also a two-time alum of this absolute great institution. I'm certainly looking forward to the discussion and dialogue on today, and excited to be here for this very important discussion.
Absolutely. So, okay, Elliot, let's try one more time.
You got one more?
I'm sorry, sweet Jaya.
Fine. My name is Jaya White. I'm a sophomore animal and poultry science major at the Tuskegee University.
Yay. And Chris and Jaya, you're high school classmates, right?
No, ma'am.
You're not? You guys didn't go to high school? I don't know why I thought that. I thought everybody in Atlanta went to, what is it, Wakefield?
Westlake.
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 I thought that was the only high school in Atlanta.
That's good marketing right there. That's good.
That's pretty good marketing. Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy to help.
Or is it still like the same?
It's still the same. We raised.
No, we hear you much better now.
Okay.
So you guys want to do your introductions again?
Okay, so my name is Kai Ture. I was originally born in Buffalo, New York, but I moved to Atlanta when I was 3 years old. And I was in the movie The Hate You Give, and I played the young version of the
Awesome. I appreciate it.
And I'm Kai's dad. Also, if you didn't hear it the first time, I'll gladly state it again, a graduate of Clark Atlanta University.
So nice we say it twice. Isn't that right, Mr. Jones?
And as a matter of fact, I met Calvin at the same time Samantha did. He was our orientation guide, freshman orientation week.
Man, you weren't supposed to say that. You know, people like to have jokes when you tell them that you married your freshman orientation guide leader.
Favoritism to some people, obviously.
Elliot, I have to tell you, Calvin the other day said, oh yeah, Elliot, we orientated him, didn't we? I said, no, you orientated us.
No, than enough, brother.
So, hey, we want to jump into this conversation. And I actually had a clip, and then Kai, I was on her page, and Kai had a way better clip than I did. I don't know, maybe she has some inside track into the movie somehow. But I said, Kai's clip is way better than mine. And I'm gonna share the screen and play it from Facebook with the hopes that Facebook won't kick us out for trying it. So, because I know that by sharing media sometimes we get in trouble. So I'm gonna see if I can't share this real quick, and hopefully the folks can see it. Let's see what happens.
Now one day you best bet we're gonna get pulled over. That's the first moment we see of the film. It's an intense moment. The talk. What to do when you get pulled over, what not to do. To save yourself from possibly getting killed. Now when it happens, you gotta look calm, answer their questions, but don't tell them nothing extra. Keep your hands out your pockets. You drop something, you leave that shit where it's at. My parents definitely gave me the talk. One of the most difficult jobs probably on the planet. It's almost like a preparation for a test. It's the part of our culture that fails to be acknowledged or recognized. Now one day y'all gonna get pulled over. Damn, what I do? It's painful. Keep your hands where they can see them. That the talk my father, talk my uncles gave to me. Just do it. And you keep your hands posted, because I still will have to give that to my children when they are of age. I want to know why you're pulling me over. So don't argue with them, because they can save your life. This is how you gonna act. You understand?
Brilliant, Kai.
Rebels, 2018 in that push Corolla.
We don't want that.
Back to the quarter ounce.
That was amazing. The original clip that I was going to show, I found was actually a director's cut, and it was similar to that, but it was the director speaking and saying that he didn't give you or your young co-star any directives about what was going to happen. He said that you guys were coming into the talk for the first time blind. And the talk is indeed, as they said in that clip, it's something that everyone around this screen probably had in one way or another. You know, maybe not in those express words, maybe not looking at the Black Panther Party 10-point program, but in some shape or fashion, we've had the conversation, especially as our children, you know, get their driver's license, start hanging out, things of that nature. Kai, I want to kick it off with you and just ask what your impression is about that scene, that talk, what you remember, how it felt, and then how does it feel now today? You're a little bit older and we're still right here having the same conversation.
So originally, before I had the audition and everything, I hadn't had the talk before because I was 9 going on 10 getting the audition. But my parents did have to sit me down and give me the talk so I could really understand the scene and the character and the script and everything.
So her voice is, where you are, Elliot, is actually louder, I think.
I'll turn the screen more toward her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I originally got the character, I originally got the audition when I was 9 going on 10 years old. So I hadn't had to talk yet. But when I did get the audition, my parents did have to sit me down and give me the talk. And of course, it was hard for me to understand because I was 9 going on 10, but I understand it a bit more now. So when I got onto set and everything, he just said, hey, we're going to rehearse it with the cameras, going where they're supposed to go to see how it would look on the actual scene. But he turned the cameras on. So he really got our real reaction to what was happening. And it felt real when they were saying the words and when they were saying their lines and everything. Because it's great acting.
Wow. So I want, Elliot, how did you feel knowing, you know, I can't even imagine being the parent of a young star, but knowing the weight of the subject matter of the movie and then just being a Black man, what were your thoughts?
So, I was familiar with the book before she got the audition, and finding out which character she played. I knew her father in the book, and not a lot, unlike myself, militant, but you know, still focused on raising his kids the right way. So when I found out she was having the talk in a character role, just like she said, I wanted her to understand why that character was having the talk, and to understand the importance and the tragedy actually of America, the fact that our young kids, Black and brown kids, still have to have a talk and have to be told to be ultra in line and compliant when dealing with officers and other people of authority. So when I heard about it, I was glad that it gave me the excuse to bring it up, which I probably should have done. Sadly, I probably should have already had it with her by 9 years old.
Dr. Bass, I see you came off mute.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing the psychological trauma that occurs when a police officer pulls over our children. We think about the person in the car, but we don't necessarily think about the parent behind the person in front of the wheel. So as I think about my own son driving and being pulled over, it makes me a little nervous about what can potentially go down. Not just him, but my own fear and concern. So what I'm hearing you say, Brother Elliot, was speaking from a father's perspective, knowing that your child may one day have to be pulled over, and what does that do when she goes out and finds herself in situations similar to the characters in the film.
I remember, I think our children were younger than 9 when we had to, I wouldn't say to talk from the standpoint of law enforcement or anything else like that, but I remember the first time we had to talk to them about race. And they were very young. You know, we have raised our children in Alabama. Elijah was actually born at the Northport Women's Pavilion, Mr. Jones, and Micah came over to Alabama as a newborn. And Micah, she was about 2 years old, in daycare. I won't say which facility there in Tuscaloosa. But I'll say I was a graduate student at the University of Alabama, and I'll just leave it at that, where do graduate students take their children. But I came to pick Micah up one day from school, and there was a Polaroid picture of her taped up to the board where you got your report about how your child's day was or anything special that happened that day. And it was a Monday, I remember, because I normally twist and braid Micah's hair on a Sunday night for the week. And her hair was left in an Afro puff from church. I was tired, you know, probably had some homework to do or something, and I just brushed her back up in that Afro puff and sent her to daycare without thinking twice. I came and there was a Polaroid picture of her with her hair all over the place. Now, when I picked her up and I looked down at her, her hair was back in that bun. It was a little messy, but she is a toddler. But her hair was clearly out of the ribbon that I sent her in. And the caption that the teacher wrote next to it was, "Look at me, don't I look just like Don King, ha, ha, ha." I was trying so hard to fight back the tears that they used my child in such a way for mockery, and we could just go down that rabbit hole for days. I asked one simple question, like, why? Like, how did we get to this moment? And the teacher said, "Oh, well, we've always been curious about her hair, blah, blah, blah. And we've never been able to touch it because it's always in twists and braids. And we just thought this was an opportunity that we could put it back the way we found it." I just grabbed my child. I walked out. I went back to the apartment. I told Calvin in probably 3 broken words, "Go get them." Like, I couldn't do anything else. But, same thing with Elijah. He was probably about 2 or 3, only Black child in a daycare class. And, so I think for us, those are my earliest memories of having to engage my children in a dialogue that I felt as a parent was necessary and unnecessary at the same time. And so, I think it shows up and looks different. Who else can remember the first time they may have had a conversation or had to have a talk?
Sweetheart, let me just make one comment about that. They said Don King on the photo, but they might as well have said buckwheat for me. And, I don't know if you could tell, my face gets contorted when I get a little emotional and angry, but that brings back all types of feelings, that moment. And telling your daughter not to let somebody touch your hair when she's 2.5, 3 years old, you got to put up all these barriers to who your child can engage with and how they engage at the age of 3 years old. That's in my eyes asinine, but that's what we had to start to do with our child at 3 years old.
Who, Dr. White?
No, I was just going to say, I think it's just absolutely amazing because the truth is our own experiences are also brought into the education that we give our children. I know for me, it's very interesting because, my first or second major encounter with law enforcement, I was 17 years old. And a group of my friends, we were all in a car in San Francisco after leaving a movie theater. And somehow along that, someone reported a bunch of Black men in a car with a gun. And so when we hit the corner, I recall there was probably about 32 police officers that literally surrounded us They jumped on, I was in the front seat. So I particularly remember the police officer, and this is probably Officer Mackey and Jones. It's probably not in any training manual, but I never forget the officer jumped on the hood of the car once they blocked us with a shotgun. He pumped the shotgun and pointed the shotgun right at my head. That was at 17 years old, with about 5 of us in the car. So they snatched us out of the car like rag dolls and threw us onto the ground. That trauma, in terms of a second experience, carried me a great deal. So the interesting thing about such a story is that when our children hit the driving age, sometimes there are things that never crossed your mind, that you thought you put away somewhere, that never existed. And then the moment they get behind the car, and then suddenly it all comes. And so then we're not even just explaining to our children, we're doing it with a level of intensity that doesn't, that really they, to a degree, don't deserve. And so it's particularly interesting for me because, I had to talk, but my brother is a police officer in Oakland, California, and I got another brother who's a police officer in Clear Lake, California. So my Oakland, California brother that talked to all my children probably more than me, and he's been realistic in terms of those concerns. So, having that talk came with that level of intensity because of my own past traumas.
Dr. Hill, you're going to say something?
Yes. My son, who is 22 right now, went to a school in a predominant area. So he was one of the few African-American boys or males in that area. So I was always weary about him going to visit his friends, especially when he started driving. And I think the first time he called me and he said, "Mom, the police stopped me." And my heart dropped to the floor. And they said I was speeding. And I said, "Well, how fast were you going?" He said 40 miles an hour. I said, "Well, what was the speed limit?" He said 35. He said they asked me to get out the car. And then after I explained where I was going to visit one of his friends, he said, they were like, "Okay, you just need to slow down." But I can remember that feeling of being so afraid when he was stopped. And he was stopped again recently by a state trooper for speeding, which he was speeding this time. But he called me and said, "I stopped." But, we've had the talk about what you need to do if you're stopped by the police. Well, I think he was so afraid that he didn't. The first thing he did was take his seatbelt off, which was the scariest thing that I think had happened. Fortunately, it was an African-American state trooper. That was one thing that was on our side. But he said, "I took my seatbelt off so that I could get my information." No. So we've had to have the talk again because the way things are now, and this was recently within the last year, and every time I see something come up now with a young male, African-American male, being stopped by the police, it just makes my heart drop to the floor. So I can understand how, as a mother, how I feel when they're just out there and you don't know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I want to shift it to Lieutenant Mackey.
Well, my conversation with my kids came at a different angle, way different angle. I got pulled over by a police officer, being a police officer, as a supervisor. Me knowing this police officer, working at the same police station.
Wow.
Yeah. Got pulled over. He pulled me over. He said I was speeding. And he started to reprimand me on the street. And I had 2 of my kids, one being 12, one being 8. And he started to reprimand me on the scene, and I am superior to him, even though I was off duty, and he knew me.
Oh, he knew you.
He knows me. Yeah, well, he knew me, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I got really, really furious because I was caught in a dilemma. I wanted to reprimand him as being his superior officer, but I didn't want to show my kids or come out of character in front of my kids on how to conduct yourself on a traffic stop. So I never had to tell my kids how to do it. I showed them how to do it. Even though I was caught up in a wrongful situation and he's not here with us any longer, not saying it was because of that, but he's not here anymore. But my kids asked me, Daddy, why is that police officer so mean?
That is
imagine having to explain that to your kids and your kids knowing that you are a law enforcement officer, a supervisor at that. And he was a different race or had another ethnic background than I have. Not saying that mattered to me, but I am a police officer, and he should have shown me that respect. If he was going to give me a ticket, so be it. And he still gave me a warning ticket at that, at best.
Wow.
So imagine explaining that to your kids. So we're no exception to the rule at all. It does happen to us just as well. Yeah, after everything that's going on now, you don't hear that too often, that police officers speak out and say that they were also a victim of circumstance. But no, we're no exception to the rule neither. It happens here also.
Wow.
Mine just came on the street instead of in the home.
It's interesting you talked about teaching your children. I remember I got pulled over, and I think, again, it was Micah in the car with me. We were headed to the high school, and I tried to model for her what I wanted her to do if she was ever pulled over. And I was being, super dramatic about it, but I, put my hands at 10 and 2. And, I asked for permission for everything I did. I didn't ask the officer the who, what, when, why, where, because, I knew that it did not matter. But I put, 10 and 2, and I, rolled down my window. Good afternoon. And he said, may I see your license and registration? Yes. May I please reach to get my purse in order to provide you with my license and registration? I told him where my purse was, where I was reaching. I just literally narrated everything I was doing so that I could model for her what I wanted her to do if she was ever in the same case. But the sad thing is, just like Lieutenant Mackey described, we do know that we're having some of these conversations because sometimes it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. Gregory Jones, before we move into more of the professional side of you two as law enforcement, which I know Dr. White is going to do you have a personal reflection?
Yes, Dr. Briggs. Cynthia, my wife and I are both what you call dinks, double income, no kids. So we don't have any kids, but my first crazy encounter with police was prior to attending the University of Montevallo. I played on the basketball scholarship at Walker Junior College in Jasper, Alabama. It's now Bevel State. And we were going to go from Jasper, Alabama, the team, to Birmingham Southern, to scrimmage Birmingham Southern. And at this particular time, my coach, Coach Glenn Clem, he was a legend in Jasper, Alabama. Everybody knew him. He allowed me to drive my personal car to Birmingham. And it was me and 3 other brothers on the team. So we were on the interstate heading from Jasper to Birmingham, and a cop pulled up beside us in a car, and a white cop. And one of the brothers in the car just started snickering, started laughing. And so the cop got behind us and pulled us over. And so he came back to the car and said, I need you to come up to my car and sit in because I need to talk to you. So I came up and sat in his car, and I looked at him and I said, why did you pull me over? And he said, don't you get smart with me. And I said, sir, I'm not getting smart with you. I just want to know why you pull me over. And he said, why you pull us over. And he said, well, cops don't like it when you snicker at them. Luckily at this time, my coach, Glenn Clem, pulled up behind us in a van with the rest of the players. And the cop looked back and said, Coach Clem, are these boys with you? And Coach Clem said, yes, that's one of my guys on my team. And so he said, well, he was just impeding traffic. So, you know, all is well. And then he left. And Coach Clem came up and he said, Greg, just make sure we all stay together, because a lot of things go on in Jasper. So that was my my encounter. And there were several other encounters that I might go into later on, one of which leaving a Howard University football game with my Kappa attire on, and I had a friend, he's an Alpha, and we got pulled over, we got stopped by a black and a white cop, and who said that some guy wearing red had stole something from this guy and that was looking at us. So I said, you know, okay, I'm looking at the guy that you said somebody stole something from him, and it's definitely not us. And the white cop came up and said, well, I told you to hold it right there. Now, what I didn't mention, I've spent like 30 years in law enforcement. Prior to the FBI, I was a special agent with the NCIS for 5.5 years. And prior to that, I was working with Uniformed Secret Service at the White House. So at this time, I was a NIS agent, now NCIS. But the white cop became belligerent. I told you to hold it right there. And so I kind of said to him, well, you know, the Malcolm X came out of me. I'm not going to hold it right here. I'm in law enforcement just like you are. How dare you? And my Alpha buddy, who we talked about this about 2 weeks ago after everything that's going on, he is horrified to this day, because he said, Greg, you could have gotten us killed. But luckily, the black officer intervened after he found out I was in law enforcement. And he said, hey, obviously, they didn't steal anything from this guy who was looking right at them. So just let them alone. But the white officer was seething. He was pissed because I wouldn't, I guess, I don't know, bow down to him or give him whatever respect he thought he wanted. But at the same time, I wanted respect too, because as Lieutenant Mackey said, I was in law enforcement. And by the way, I'm a member of NOBLE, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and Lieutenant Mackey and I are in the same chapter in Birmingham. Thank you.
So I want to shift a little bit and focus a little bit on that conversation with the kids, and I'm going to start with Calvin. And Samantha opened up by sharing her particular experience, and so I want to hear a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Elijah. Tell me about the type of conversations that you've had with your dad, especially around the time for you to drive. And then I'm gonna double back the same thing with you, Chris, as well. Elijah?
So my dad and my mom, like they said, they shared with me and my sister what we need to do. And when they talked to us about driving, like my mom said she did with my sister, they told us to always keep your hands forward on the dash and then explain everything you're going to do before you do it and ask for permission to do it. And make sure you abide by what they're saying and don't try and talk back and don't try and move without telling them you're going to move.
So Calvin, so what's it like? Because these instructions you're giving really is to help him survive. But it's always also at the same time, you know, laced with a degree of fear and concern from yourself. So what's it like, the intensity of the concern for you when you first start seeing Elijah particularly start to drive?
Well, Elijah right now, he hadn't gotten his license yet. So he hadn't had that solo drive yet without one of us in the car. And, you know, in this environment, I'm really kind of dreading that because you just don't know what could happen, because everything starts out with a certain degree of innocence. And you just don't know with everyone, even law enforcement and on the protest side, what can happen. Because we've had protests here in our neighborhood where the police have kind of blocked off certain areas of the Galleria Mall around where we live. And unfortunately, I think if they see a Black person in a car, the assumption is you don't live around here, or that gives them more of a reason to want to pull you over to try to investigate. So I'm really conflicted right now because he's supposed to go and get his license. He really should have got it this spring. And I think we've been kind of pushing that final driving test further and further back because of what's been going on. But ultimately, he's going to have to get his license this summer and drive alone. And I just pray every day that we've equipped him with the right information, the right knowledge to be able to navigate alone if need be, if you ever get pulled over. So that's, I think, is my greatest fear, my wife's greatest fear in this environment right now.
Okay. And Chris, you're a psychologist. So you got all that under consideration, but one of the things that I'm always talking about is that what we do and who we are two separate things. So what you do is psychology, but who you are as a dad. So tell me, in terms of the intersection of those two, about that conversation you had with little Chris. And then Chris, did your dad overdo it? What's it like? Was it warranted, that level of concern, Chris? Big Chris.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Psychologist goes out the window when it deals with the kids. You know, all of the training that you have in terms of de-escalation and so forth and so on, and managing your stress. And, you know, we do this, Dr. White, we do this all the time. But when it comes to our kids, out the door. Every time he gets behind the wheel, I have my phone on Find My Friends. I'm looking at his, you know, location, and I know that makes him angry. I know it makes him upset, but I'm looking at every single turn. I am making sure that he, you know, is at all of the checkpoints. So I overdo it, but what I try my best not to do is to let him know that I'm watching him at every step.
Okay, so little Chris, woo, I would say, wow, that's amazing, but we got Life 360 over here, so y'all say what y'all want to say, but look, we throw that out the window when it comes to that. But little Chris, so your dad, mom are giving you those instructions. Is that fear warranted in them? And do you get a little nervous when you see law enforcement pull up behind you?
Absolutely, because you know, you just don't know who you're dealing with, because as we know, there are many officers that are good, but there are many that can be bad as well. So you just don't know who's going to be behind you in that car. And speaking on what you were saying about the fear, we were just, we took a drive to LaGrange, Georgia, which is about 40 minutes out from where we are, which is a little more southern of Georgia from where we are. And as we were driving on that back road, my mom would consistently say, "Chris, you're going too fast." And the speed limit, I believe, was like 40. Yeah. And I was going 42. Right. And so she was trying to tell me that when you are in those back roads late at night, you have to make sure that you're going like 10 miles under that, because they'll pull you over just like that if you're going 42 or 2 miles over that. So that just showed me that you need to be aware. And so even though it's a lot to hear, I understand why I'm hearing it. So I understand it.
So Elliot, coming back to you, what kind of experiences have influenced your parenting and being right there in Atlanta? I know Chris, Gary, and Elliot, you guys are all in Atlanta. What does that look like for you now as a parent, you know, just kind of moving about your everyday life?
Well, thankfully, very recently, we've been quarantined. So kids haven't had a lot of time to move around, but a lot of places to go. But I do have an older daughter. So Kai has an older sister who's 20 now. But I distinctly remember when she first got her license around 16 and going back and forth to school by herself. The talks I would have with her on a regular, because there was a speed trap between our house and the school. One, making sure she's always aware of her school, her speed, being careful, but also if she is pulled over, there's no need to bow down, yes sir, no sir. But at the same time, don't start a fight with an officer. If he does give you a ticket that you don't feel you deserve, take the ticket. We'll fight it in court. I'll stand behind you all the way. If we have to take it to the Supreme Court over a speeding ticket, I'll stand behind you. But don't start a fight on the side of the road. No need to argue. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna get that ticket if he wants you to have it. So just those type of things. But as it stands right now, and when it comes to the protests that are going on and other things that are happening in Atlanta, we have regular talks, probably daily, about what's going on, why. What I don't have any insight from an officer's perspective, but I do feel I do think tend to feel some compassion and empathy with those that are protesting, and we talk about those things. We talk about the quote unquote damages being done to buildings and other things, and the whys. And tomorrow, I'm taking off of Juneteenth, of course. Tomorrow will be our first time actually taking to the streets ourselves to sort of, of course, we'll do so safely, but to see what's going on, out there, and to get a real feel for what's going on in the streets of Atlanta.
So Kai, I noticed that you have, since the film industry has started providing a lot of movies around this topic for free, including The Hate U Give, I've noticed that you have, made a lot of statements about raising your voice and using your voice and social justice. What does that mean to you right now, and how are you gonna either, keep your composure or completely clown out there tomorrow?
Okay, so my dad, he just told me now that we were going out there, so now I'm kind of excited. But yeah, I know not to do anything like physically, just to talk, and like if something happens, I know to keep my calm and not to say anything, and I know to use my words and to make sure that I don't hurt anybody. And
I hope you don't hurt anybody.
I'm not gonna hurt anybody.
You have a sign ready?
No, we have poster boards, so we're doing our sign making tonight.
All right.
Excellent. You know what? I was reminded, looking at things that parents do for their children in preparation for the talk and for activities. Dr. White, there was an obligation that you and your family take part in. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so with my oldest one, Imani, who now works for here in Georgia, the city of Sandy Springs, in the executive division of Sandy Springs Fire Department. But when she was in college and first got her car, I wrote something called the new car obligation. And I had this video where she had to raise her right hand and she had to do all of these obligations. I did my middle daughter as well, and this was going to end up getting in. But the obligation that they raise their right hand, and it's all these things that they literally make the promise to particularly focus around who they put in the car, and acknowledging that they are ultimately responsible for anything anyone brings into the car. They're responsible for communicating with friends that they may put in the car about what the rules are, reminding them that it's my car. I don't care what name it got on it. And so therefore it can be reparent possessed. And when it gets reparent possessed, that means it's going to sit in that driveway for some undisclosed, undetermined period of time until the reflection comes in. But the obligation that I literally think every parent should read, and then of course I have my daughter sign that obligation because it's very concrete. It's something that we have to do as a form of survival now, is that we literally have to make sure that we're very concrete with regard to the expectations. And as we move on through this conversation, just dealing with the fact that we're really having a conversation about police officers who are afraid. because we don't always have these experiences with Black police officers as much as we do with white police officers. And the irony of it is just about everyone's experience was related to an officer of the opposite race. But yeah, so that obligation, because of my experience, as I told you, I put it in writing, and so it allows for me to be absolutely 1,000% concrete. So that's the new ownership car obligation that they got to take.
I love that. And Elijah, feel free to get Uncle Gary on the side for that one, because you already know your daddy's about to ask for a copy. But Lieutenant Mackey, we have some questions in the Facebook chat for you. Oh, Dr. Coleman is in the chat also. She wants a copy of that, Dr. White. But Lieutenant Mackey, I want to, the question is, let me see, where did it go? We have a couple of people who are asking you in particular to respond to your advice, give us advice on what you would recommend. So we have all been, going with our CSI version, that we have piecemealed together off of TV. But what is your recommendation for engagement when we're pulled over? Your recommendation for engagement if we participate in what we believe to be a peaceful protest? And then also, I want you to tell us a little bit about NOBLE, about the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement, and the role that you and your colleagues are playing in, trying to change the narrative.
Okay, first part, I've been involved in various protests that we have here in Montgomery, all of which have been peaceful, thank God. It's not, we've been very blessed. It's not been like other cities. And reason being, because I think it comes from the head and goes down. Our chief is a community-oriented chief. So he has us to engage the public. He has us walking through those neighborhoods that would be considered challenged. On foot, windows up with the air conditioning blowing. We go up to these so-called, what they so-called call these guys, the hood guys. That's up to them. We engage them. Not in a violent manner at all, but we go to them as men and laws against them. With a job that's called to do a certain thing. We are the peacemakers of the land. Further than that, that's what we wrote, to go home that day and to complain.
We'll double back to it.
If I could chime in,
Oh,
Lieutenant.
the nobles. You can respond to the nobles, Jones.
Okay. Well, again, I joined the NOBLE chapter in San Francisco in 1994, and what it stands for is the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And it's a national organization which consists of state, local, federal, anybody in law enforcement, and even if you're not in law enforcement. We had folks that were school teachers or anybody that wanted to join the chapter that I was a member of in DC. We just recently reactivated our chapter in Birmingham. One of the things that NOBLE is doing nationwide now is called Law and Community. We're taking forums nationwide where we talk to kids of color. I actually participated in a forum at Spelman College about 2 years ago, one at Fayetteville State, and at a high school in the Fairfield area in Birmingham. And Lieutenant, I'm going to let Lieutenant Mackey speak more to that, because I know I was on the panel, but I think from what I understand, you were able to get up and you teach the kids on how we role play with the kids. So if you get pulled over by a cop, we actually have a cop car out there that shows you how to keep your hands on the dashboard, how to be safe. If a police officer responds to your house, we have a role play session for that. But Lieutenant Mack, let me let you go more into that, because I think that everybody needs to hear about that.
Yes, we go into the community centers of the so-called challenged and impoverished areas, and we talk to a lot of the kids there, and we just come undone. We show these kids that we're human. We show these kids what's behind the badge. We show these kids the do's and the don'ts when interacting with a police officer on the street, or if a police officer comes to your house. It's very, very, very interesting the insight that the kids give us, because it's an open dialogue. It's not me just going into the community center and saying do this and do that. We have what you call basic conversation, whereas we respond to the questions that's given by them, and we respond to the concerns that's given by these teenagers, because a lot of them think that as adults we don't listen. They think we know it all, and that we don't hear anything that they have to say. And if we can remember how we were when they was their age, we thought that the adults didn't know where we was coming from. So we take all of that out of the equation. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to hear what you've been through, so that we can tell you how to get through or how we made it through what you're going through. That's it, basic. We're doing the same thing that Facebook does. Facebook put out something, and it's up to you whether to believe it or not to believe it, act on it or not act on it. We're doing the same thing. We're giving you the ingredients to succeed in life. It's going to be up to you to either take it, eat it, or push it away.
I like that. Dr. Bass, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I love the idea, Lieutenant Mackey. You broke it all the way down for us, but one thing that we haven't really talked about yet, and I know we're limited in time, is we haven't talked about the young ladies. We haven't talked about the young ladies' interaction with police officers. And, typically what we see a lot are male officers interacting with male drivers. But what happens when a young lady is behind the wheel and she's, talking with a male officer? So I know, Jaya, I'm calling on you, sweetheart. I know, Jaya, you've heard the talk, you've probably seen the obligation, but what would you say to those young ladies who will be driving or are already driving about the talk?
So for me, I've gotten the talk basically from like many different sources. So one is from the organization that Uncle Chris and my dad are a part of, is Let Us Make Men. So, they have a workshop about consequences of thug life, and what's the other one? Know Your Legal Rights and stuff like that. So it's like been times where I've sat in and like got the talk from there, and I've also gotten it from my parents and from my Uncle Randy, who's a police officer in Oakland. And so like there are many different sources, and one thing like that's all common, and one thing that my mom has also said to me like recently is that even if there's room to argue, don't, like, be respectful. All of that is it's important, like how it was mentioned before, that you make it home at the end of the day, like regardless of anything, like regardless if you felt that you weren't in the wrong, regardless if like you think that there's more to it, just make it home at the end of the day. And
advice to your friends.
Yes, so I've also had to give the talk to I've had to give the talk like to my friends, because like they haven't had it. And it was one time specifically where my friend called me and he was like, Jai, I'm getting pulled over right now. He was thinking that he was talking of it like as a joke. And I was like, it's not a joke. Like, we have to be serious. Like, he had his AirPod in and everything. I was like, you have to be serious about this. Like, you don't know where you are. You don't know who you're dealing with. You may be lucky and get somebody that, may see your side of it. You may not. You may get somebody who just may see your skin color of it. Like, it's two different things. And so, like, I basically had to tell him that, he was joking around. I was like, no, put your hands on, like, either the dashboard, the steering wheel, somewhere where they could see it. And, like, if you are going to go get your license, if you are going to get your registration, tell him that. Tell him where it's at. Tell him where you're going to go get it. Tell him that you're going to go get it. Like, it's all important that even though you think that it's like a cool situation, it's not, because it could be life or death, regardless of who you're dealing with, regardless of who you are, regardless of what your background is. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows any of that stuff about you when they look exactly at you. Wow. So I always have to, like, you know, even though I don't necessarily drive a whole bunch, but even just being in the car with my friends while we're at school, that, you know, sometimes I'm like, you know, slow down. We're not like into ski. We're not in a spot to be, this is just not the area, it's not the time, it's not the place to be joking around. You have to take this seriously, because it's not only your life, it's my life, it's everybody else who's in the car, it's all of us, like, together. We're in this together. We all trying to make it home at the end of the day.
You sound like Star.
Right, exactly. That's the role that was played. Dr. Hill first, and then other Dr. Briggs. We do college access work. Our work and our career path is to, you know, get children into college and make sure that they persist and are successful in completing college. How does this conversation and this advice and, you know, preparing our young adults, what role do we play, I guess, in preparing them for collegiate life? You know, because now they have to interact with campus police and city police. So for our kids at UAB, you know, especially being an urban campus, there's a delicate balance between the lines of the city and the lines of the institution.
One of the things I think that we need to work on more is to teach the kids, because a lot of them come from homes where they aren't given the talk. Just like Jaya said, she had to tell her friends. They don't get the talk. So, you know, and listening to the conversation that we're having now, I think it's something that we do need to incorporate in some of the things that we do. And one thing that I think we need to get over to all of the students is that when they go to college, yes, there's campus police, yes, there's the city police, but on most campuses now, they are police, they are law enforcement, they're not security anymore. I know at a time, you know, it was campus security. No, it is not campus security anymore. It is campus police. They are law enforcement. They have the same rights, they have the same duties as the regular police. I mean, they're just on a campus. So we need to stress that to the students that, yes, you're going away to school. Yes, you're not under your parents. However, there are still rules that you need to follow. And I think when a lot of students go to school, they think that they are grown, they can drink, because I think a lot of the issues come with drinking and driving, or drinking and being in public with disorderly conduct. So I think that's some of the conversations we do need to have, especially with our freshmen as they transition. So I know Dr. White and Dr. Bass have the clubs, the Gear Up clubs coming. I think that's something that we all need to touch on and add into what we're doing this year, especially with the environment like it is now. I mean, the environment is fueled. So, you know.
That was a perfect reminder. So Bass and White, I don't know which one of you just made note of that, but we need to make sure that we add that to the Gear Up clubs for sure.
Yes, yes.
Other Dr. Briggs, what you got?
So great comments about the difference between campus police and city police, because really there isn't a real difference. They're all police officers, and they're taking an oath to serve and protect. But one of the things that kind of has been resonating very loudly with me over the last several days is this ideal of fairness. And everyone's probably used this line. No one said life is going to be fair. There's nothing fair about life. And I can remember as a young man, knowing in my heart and deeply believing I've been wronged, and how unjust and how unfair it was that such and such happened to me. And I was going to do everything in my power to make it right. And I think a lot of people have this issue. These young folks have the issue. Folks out in the street protesting because they want to see fair and equitable treatment of Black men and Black women in the justice system. And that's fine. And I had to even tell my own daughter, it's just things aren't fair, but God put you here on this planet to do something about the unfairness, the inequity, the injustice. And although everybody may not experience it all at the same time, the question is, what have you done to move us one step closer toward that feeling of equity within the justice system, within the education system, within the religious system, which in every system that we have to operate in life. So, and I think that's the biggest goal. And giving our children a toolbox with tools to pull from as they need them, whether it be how to get yourself out of a situation with a traffic stop, how to get yourself out of a situation if you're in the car with the wrong people at the wrong time in the wrong place. Those are tools that they need to navigate through life. And the more tools we give them, the better they are at navigating through those rough situations and overcoming those obstacles. And I think it's our job as educators, as law enforcement officers, as teachers and directors, to provide the mentorship that's needed to our young folks and even our middle-aged and older folks. Because there's a lot of folks who spend a lot of years on this planet and didn't get to talk or didn't get the right information, the right toolage, the right mentorship. So I think it's our job to provide that mentorship to whoever needs it at whatever time they need it. And that's what the overwhelming feeling I've been feeling over the last few days, especially since some of the things that recently happened in our life. You're on mute, sweetie.
Thanks, sweetie. It's Dr. Briggs. Jeez, I'm at work. Thank you, baby. Dr. White, you wanted to share that new car obligation that folks are over here begging for.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to share the screen. I just want you all to take a look at, this is the one that I had my daughter do in terms of that obligation. Let's see here. That'll be here, I think.
Jaya, help your daddy.
There we go. Okay.
He done showed us the whole computer.
Can y'all see it?
Oh, Lord.
There we go. We good. Well, hold on.
Hey, you knew you should have done that.
No, she got jokes. It's all right, though. I'm here.
No, it's right here.
Where? Okay, there we go. All right.
Help him, Jaya.
Help him, Jaya.
Now, do you all see it?
Yes, we see everything.
Okay, good. So she said we see everything. So as you all see, this is the one I did for my my daughter when I first gave her the car, and it's a little lengthy, but it's on point of her own free will and accord. You know, I will not let anyone drive, move, park, pick up, push, pull, tow my car without express written verbal authorization from my parents. Having fully informed them without delay or modification or hesitation. To further, while driving the car, or not text or talk. So I'm covering everything that
doesn't pass the daddy test.
That piece. Further, I would listen to my gut, use common sense, and if the decision causes unrest, I will ask, does it pass the daddy test or the mama test? I'll assume total responsibility for ensuring the appropriateness of all passengers so that they do not conceal or transport any illegal substance or firearm, that I will have an explicit conversation with all first-time passengers, regardless of the rules, and obtain their verbal acknowledgement and agreement. And so we keep on moving.
Written by a PhD right here, baby.
Understand that I fully am responsible for the gas and routine maintenance, although my parents may opt to assist, and I will fully notify my dad of any suspected problems with the car. Let's keep on moving, y'all. I will duly notify, and I will not operate the vehicles between, and then I gave that period of time, such time is permissible by my parents. Finally, I fully understand that this vehicle belongs to my parents and that its operation is a privilege and not the right, regardless of my personal investment and its upkeep. Dr. Bash, this may resonate with you. All of this, I most sincerely promise and swear that I will honor and obey the terms and conditions set forth in this parent-student covenant, binding myself under no less penalty than that of having my car repossessed, returned to the home for some indiscriminate time, taken for a few days, weeks, or semester, or sold to the lowest sibling bidder. So help me God and my loving parents, and keep me steadfast in due performance of the same.
Every child on this Zoom and every child watching cannot stand you.
Elliot, you see that?
Dr. White?
Yes.
Dr. White, mine wasn't
good one.
detailed as that, but I did do a contract with my daughter, and I want you to know that it does work. The contract does work. It wasn't as detailed as yours, but it works.
Dr. Officer Jones, that language may have seemed a little familiar. Yes, Dr. Basson Jones? All this, that obligation, absolutely. So it's a serious piece.
Hold on, we need Jones and Mackie. Mackie is down there dying. Please let them respond.
I've never in my life heard a home document written up such as that one. That is awesome. I need a copy emailed to me ASAP because I got 2 more drivers left. So that will be implemented in my house.
And I definitely need to share that with some nieces and nephews and other folks that we consider our kids, because that's pretty deep and it's needed. We need to share that.
Elijah, Chris,
Elijah, Chris, and Kai, I want to hear your feedback, because poor Jaya lives with
ain't nothing like getting a car reparent possessed. I'm gonna tell you, it's a beautiful thing.
You know what? He is basically saying he needs to repossess Micah's car. Hey, that's what he said. He said, "Can I get Micah's car?"
That's messed up.
Look, that's what Jaya was doing like this, repossess her, because I said the lowest bidder.
That's a very good document. Actually, Kai hasn't had her 13th birthday yet, but so she's a few years from driving. So not only I'm glad I'm recording this, so I have those words. But not only am I going to get her something like that, but I may even add a little more to it. That's a very good document.
I was going to say, Kai, you got 3 years to make yours 2 pages.
You may even get my 20-year-old to retro sign, because I've had some problems with her. Her Life 360 conveniently drops out.
Look, wait, say that again, Elliot. What happened?
Her Life 360 app conveniently drops out.
Y'all see that? And then they go, Daddy, I don't know. It's Father's Day. All right.
Gary, you have, I remember you saying once before, because we talked about Life 360 with the kids. So number 1, explain it to anybody who doesn't know. But number 2, you had a rule with your girls because they're different ages and at different stages. But nevertheless, life happens in every circumstance when we are, aware or unaware. And I mean, our children are 31, 22, and 17. And, none of them are too grown, for us to have this type of coverage and protection. But Gary, I remember you saying one time that with Imani, who's your oldest, you all just had a rule that, if she wasn't going to do 360, you at least had a contact rule where you can plug into some of her friends, right?
Well, it's a couple things. There's a universal rule, and Chris understands this, and Calvin understands this, because they're literally a part of the family circle. And that is, if I can't reach you, then some of these people in my circle should be able to, because I get it, especially with my oldest one, I get it. But guess what? Those aunts and all that fictive kinship, somebody needs to know. Now, Life 360 is a great app, because not only does it, and she's going to shake her head, Life 360 is a great app because not only does it track everywhere you go, it will give you a map of everywhere you've been. And you can click a button and get directions to where the person is. Now, the interesting thing is, and I know some of the young people are probably looking on here now and turning up a little bit, but here's the reality. Many of them are what I call virtual adults. You're a virtual adult because of everything about it, Chris and Jaya, Teray, it'll hit you too. See, they're college students. So they're living their life as sort of like an adult, but they're virtual adults. Why? Because the cell phone is still in my name. The driver's license and all that stuff is still in it. So that makes you kind of like a virtual adult. You have an account, but the parents are the account. So that literally makes you like a virtual adult. So the Life 360, well, guess what? I mean, this actually makes all the sense. This is a radical concept for everybody watching. If I'm paying the cell phone bill, like the car is mine, all of it. So you turn up. I'm like, look, I think you should turn up, but go get your own phone. There we go.
No, you're dead on. That was actually one of the conditions. So she got my oldest got a license at 16. I researched. I was looking for some type of tracking app, and came across Life 360. And one of the conditions was, hey, if you want to drive, and if you want this phone, because I'm still paying this phone bill for this $900 iPhone, and I want Life 360 on my phone. Don't take it off my phone. Don't turn it off on my phone. and that's one of the conditions of having this phone. I mean, our house is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship ruled by my wife and myself. And that's just how it goes.
Life is not fair.
Right.
Oh my God.
Well, y'all have to get our Jones.
I don't know how this conversation changed into the young people. I am sorry. It was my fault for bringing your daddies on this circle where they could be supported. I feel like this is y'all's Father's Day gift. Don't nobody ask for nothing, because
Thank you, Dr. Briggs.
You just got a pound, a fist bump, a hug from brother to brother to brother. Y'all are co-signing on this. What were you gonna say, Dr. Bass?
I was just saying thank you for this Father's Day gift, this early Father's Day gift that I could fist bump my brothers. It felt good. And I hope this one was listening.
Yeah. And I'm going to add, really, when we put all the jokes aside, you know, the beautiful thing is that these are all daddy's girls and father's sons and mother's sons and daughters. And so in the midst of all of that, you know, we don't forget that we were their age too. And the truth of the matter is, it's almost like a cat and mouse game. And so, for example, in healthy parenting in this process, I recognize that there's some things that they are not going to tell me that they may tell their mom. I also recognize that there's some things that they may not tell me or mom, but they're going to call Uncle Chris and have the conversation with Uncle Chris. And the truth of the matter is, because I got healthy people in my circle, Uncle Chris may never tell me what they talked about, but I got the comfort level that Uncle Calvin and Uncle Chris will have the conversation with them. And if I need to know, they'll let me know. So that's why sometimes, even within the context of the talk and everything else, is that it's important to have the right people in your circle, because parents, for everybody watching this, there's some stuff you don't need to know.
Yeah.
You need to know, but you don't need to know. That the other part is that sometimes it's more important that the people in your circle know, and because you all are like-minded, they can help facilitate that process. So it literally is, parenting really is a community endeavor.
Awesome. So I want to ask the children here, since it is Father's Day, I'm gonna give you all a moment to to acknowledge the fathers in this space, even for Mackey and Jones, who don't have a young person sitting next to them. On behalf of their children, I'm going to let the young people just speak to fathers in general, not just, you know, fathers who, you know, we keep saying uncle, and Jaya knows, and Chris knows, little Chris knows, in our circle, in our community, Elijah knows that, you know, I think one of my children the other day, I said something about your uncle is coming over, and they said, which one? I said, what do you mean, which one? It's only one who lives in town. They're like, really? We have at least 80 uncles. And that's because our village, we call each other auntie and uncle. So that being said, you now have an Uncle Jones and an Uncle Mackey. So share with them your thoughts on what it means to have their protection and their love, and just give them a little shout out as we wrap this up. I'm not gonna call a name. Let's see which bold person's going first. Oh, Chris, you unmuted for Chris. That wasn't fair.
I did.
First off, I just want to say thank you. Many people don't get the opportunity to have a village of strong men surrounding them in different fields. And so I thank you all for being here. If there's anything that I need, anything that I want to ask for help or assistance, you guys are here to take care of that. With that, that's allowed me to grow as a person. It knows right from wrong. And so this is just me saying thank you. So I appreciate you all.
That's my boy. Well, that's my young man.
Okay. Thank you for being there for me. And I know some people don't have the chance to have like a bunch of people there for them and stuff, but like, yeah, you give me people that are there for me. And thank you for making me strong and helping me with stuff that you don't really have like knowledge in.
I don't have.
Volleyball. He helped me with volleyball a few weeks ago. So like I appreciate him doing stuff like that for me, even though it may make him uncomfortable. Yeah.
Do whatever I can.
So I would want to say thank you because I know specifically like with me and little Chris and with Elijah, like it's our group, our village that's surrounding us. It's a interesting group of people. Like you have attorneys, you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have just a taste of everything. And I know that has been really prominent in my upbringing because I know knowing my dad, knowing all my uncles, Uncle Chris, everybody, that they're all protesters looking for a protest. Like they all they want to get it together. They want like to fight justice like for us, and that like brings down and rains down on us like and our upbringing. And so I just want to say thank you, and it helps a lot like with who I am, and it spreads out from me to my friends because how my dad is a therapist, that ultimately just makes me a therapist for my friends. Or how my mom, how she's a professor in criminal justice, which means it rains down on me because I know some things that knowing about my legal rights. I know some things that I could pass down to them. So I just say thank you for how you all have raised me, and I will continue to keep growing.
Oh, daddy's baby. Oh, I'm sorry.
Dang, they messed you up, son. I'm sorry.
I just want to thank everyone for, like my mom said, you guys are all like family to me. And you guys all teach me, help me, support me. And you're always there when I need you. And you're always teaching me new things. So I wanted to say thanks for that.
Beautiful.
Can I say something, Dr. Briggs?
Go.
First of all, happy Father's Day to everyone. And just one little special shout out to Greg. My son is in Tuscaloosa, and we had a crisis one day. And Greg doesn't have any kids, and he and Cynthia are so carefree. They're retired. They just go everywhere. But that one day I was in trouble, and he was in trouble. And I had no one else to call. And I said, Greg and Cynthia, can you please help me? They not only stepped up to the task, but they were there with him through the whole crisis and were able to get him back to his apartment. So even though Greg doesn't have any kids, he's wonderful. He is, just there to step in where, he was the only male, or he and Cynthia were the only people I could think of at that time. So, but I want to tell everyone, happy Father's Day to you. And I know that your kids are going to do wonderful things for you.
No pressure. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I am so grateful to each of you for taking time out of your busy schedules, to share this time with us and to talk to our young people. And so even though, my 9,500 students are not here, they are here virtually and they are watching. And I call each of them my babies as well. And so we do all of this work in the name of the 9,500 students that we serve in the 42 different high schools, 17 counties, 21 school districts across the state of Alabama. And half of our cohort is right there with you, Mackie. I served the class of 2020 and 2021 at every high school in Montgomery County. So 4,500 of our kids are right there with you in MPS. So I'm grateful for your care and attention to them. And, I'm excited to have such great partners, old and new. And I want to say Dr. Hill with College Admissions Made Possible co-hosted today's live because they are venturing out on their own next week. So starting next Wednesday, College Admissions Made Possible will start a series of Facebook Live events. Of course, my crew started with a Wednesday live as well. And so they will be here next Wednesday on the Gear Up Alabama Facebook Live page, hosting a resource fair for all the young people going to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And so they'll have the financial aid rep, I think Veterans Affairs rep, trio, etc. So join us next Wednesday at 2 p.m. on Gear Up Alabama Facebook Live. And you know what, y'all? I was trying to think, Gary and Chris, I don't know if we have a topic next week. I'll have to see. I was looking on the calendar. Is this our first week where we're not planned out? Or did I miss something? I don't know. We're going to have a sidebar. But we've been doing this for about 12, 13 weeks strong. And I look forward to the conversations that we have. I think we got about one more month before we see ourselves heading back to campus, and then we'll have to see what this looks like moving forward. But again, happy Father's Day to each and every one of you. No matter how you came about being a father, you are a father in somebody's life, and we're grateful for you. So love you. Everybody have a great weekend. And I appreciate you. I'm going to end this on Facebook Live, and if anybody wants to stick around, we'll still be in the Zoom. Take care.
Everyone take care. Thank you for having us.
Thank
Excellent.
You. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for calling me.
Oh, yeah, likewise.